Hey everybody, this is Freddie with LeviathanScuba.com. So you finally decided you're going to buy dive gear. What the heck do you buy first? What's the most important? We'll get to that in just a minute. So if you have already committed to yourself, you're ready to buy your dive gear, then you're watching the right video. If you haven't decided yet, then you may want to check out our other video first on renting versus buying dive gear. Okay? And I'd like to do a shout out to Stewart Cove, our buddy at Stewart Coves. They've always taken care of us very well. And if you all have a resort or live aboard and you want to shout out, just send us the t-shirt or send us a hat and we'll put it on the video. And, you know, it's all the dive world. We want to keep each other going. So if you are committed to purchase, right, you've decided it's time to buy gear, whether you're a newer diver or you've rented for a while and now it's time to buy gear, what the heck do you buy first, right? Before I get into the order of the gear that you actually purchase, I want to give you a little bit of advice, okay? One of the biggest mistakes that many people make is they go too fast. I see new divers that come in and they've got all their stuff. Now, dive shops love those people, right? It's a nice big sale. And even I love those sales. But I have to tell you, I don't recommend, even the people in my shop, I tell them, go slow. Come on in here on a Saturday, let's have a cup of coffee and a cup of coffee, and let's just talk about it. Let me help you figure out what you really want to buy first, and if you want to buy a package and those things. And that's kind of what we're going to do here right now, only without the coffee. Okay? One of the decisions you need to make first is the type of diving you do. There's a lot of different equipment out there, and a lot of it is personalized for certain types of diving, maybe even some types of people, things like that. And you know, start your research. If you've already been researching, awesome, that's great. Then hopefully we can help you just kind of in the order. Unless you got all the money you need, melt that credit card, have it all show up in the mail, or go to a dive shop, even better, and go home and wear your wetsuit and watch TV. Okay? One of the best pieces of advice I can give to people beyond going slow and researching first is to buy quality. This is probably the area that irks me the most. And it's not the people that just buy the cheap stuff. It's not the consumer. It's the seller. I've talked a couple of times about there's two different brands of regulators out there that I'm very thankful now that almost every dive shop I know of in America will not service them because they're junk. They're terrible. They're the cheapest regulator you can buy. And I see people recommending them on the internet. Just consumers that have a cell phone camera and they get on there and they want to get a YouTube video out there and they say, I bought this and I love it. And I have to tell them, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, but you don't. Those people that have been doing this a long time, that know all the different manufacturers that tear these things apart, put them back together, we see them and we won't even service them anymore. I'm not going to mention the regulators by name right now. I am going to do a review on them and I'm going to cover what I'm talking about. But they're 45-year-old technology, 35-year-old technology on the inside. They're selling them cheap. In my opinion, it's a disposable reg, but it might just kill somebody before you throw it away. Nobody services them anymore that I can think of. There's one place in Florida, and I don't think they should either. I think there shouldn't be a market for those two regulators in the United States because they are actually dangerous. So I want you to consider buying quality your highest priority. And that doesn't mean the most expensive either. I'm not trying to spend your money for you. I don't mind a budget. I don't mind a discount. I don't mind saving money and doing the right thing. There's lots of ways to do it and still get good quality equipment, okay? But buying for the type of diving you do, like I mentioned, if you're not going to be a tech diver, why buy tech diving equipment because you got a deal on it? It doesn't make sense to me, and it won't help you enjoy the sport anymore. I'll give you a true story. We went to Bonaire as a group. It was a group trip. I was leading that trip, and one of the gals that showed up, she was very nervous. I literally held her hand on almost every single dive. But the part of the story I'm getting to is she showed up with maybe $6,000 worth of gear. And I was like, oh my God, you just got certified. Now, she lived in a different state. She traveled with us. She bought it from her dive shop there where she lived. And she shows up and she's got a Tech BC with side mounts, but it's got a back plate added to it. And she's got these regulators that are mega super regulators with 6-foot hoses, and they taught her how to wrap it around her neck, and like tech divers. And I asked her, I said, do you know what this equipment is? She says, no, they said it was really good. I said, well, yes, for somebody who's going to dive tech 250 feet deep, side mount, all this kind of stuff. And I said, hun, you need to tell them that you want to exchange this for something a little more simple, because you're not going to be a tech diver. You're just enjoying recreational warm water diving, and that's really what you need to get into in the beginning. Had she come to me in the beginning, I would have protected her from that. And I feel that way with you, even though I don't know you yet. I feel I want to protect everybody out there. And I see a lot of these people that get on the internet and they have a cell phone camera and they want to put a video out there and they tell everybody, I love this reg. As that's the only reg you've ever tried. Okay, you love it. I get it. Great. But, sometimes that's a disservice to people and not a service. So, okay, I'm done ranting. I'm sorry. You can buy average quality equipment for around $1,500, $1,200 to $1,500. Wetsuit, regulator, BCD, modest dive computer, things like that. Or you can pay $2,000 for one regulator. So I'm not saying buy the most expensive, but buy quality. And you can get yourself a package and then just kind of shop around and know that it's like a lot of things, right? If you're a golfer, you can go to a big box name brand store and buy a whole set of clubs for $250. Or you can buy a Callaway or a Ping driver for $1,500. Okay, so diving equipment is kind of like that, only it's life support. That's why I say don't buy the cheapest regulator out there. I don't care if you're on a budget. Rent first, okay? Okay, so you don't need the whole package right away. If you've got the money, great. You want to buy the whole package, great. As long as you've researched and you each piece of equipment so you know what you want. I don't believe in buying a brand. Don't just say, okay, I like this brand. I'll take everything in that brand. I'll take that BC, that regulator, that mask, that this, that this, that this. Do you know there's some manufacturers that are the best manufacturers on earth? They don't make a dive computer that's air integrated. I'm not going to dive a dive computer that's not air integrated. I'm not dissing those that do. I have, and I demo them all the time, and you can dive a regular dive computer. Personally, I own a dive shop. I can get anything I want. I'm going to dive an air-integrated dive computer. But this brand has some of the best equipment out there. They just don't make one. So I'm not going to have a dive computer made by them just because of brand. Okay? And you don't want to rush through it. That guy that comes in and says, here's my credit card. I'm leaving here today with a set. Let's buy it. I'd rather you take your time, decide which BC you want. I don't care which brand. Decide which wetsuit, which regulator, what octopus, whether you're going to have a secondary air source or not. The mask is the number one item you need to purchase that makes a difference whether you're going to enjoy the dive or not. Get the right one that fits you the best. Okay? Don't move too quick. Buy the right stuff. It's much better to buy the right stuff and go slow than buy some of it twice. Know this, that your needs are going to change with time. Right now, if you're a newer diver, you just got in there, you're out searching the internet, finding all these fun videos to watch. Well, guess what? You're going to be a different diver after 100 dives. a different diver yet again after 500 dives. You'll see what I mean. And for those of you that have hit those numbers, you know exactly what I mean, right? So you're going to be needing a little bit different things in the equipment. Okay, so as your experience grows, so will your taste in gear. Now, some types of diving require different gear. What do I mean by that? Well, the most obvious is if you're going to dive under the ice, you want a dry suit, right? You're not going to go with your 3mm wetsuit that you bought for the Caribbean. And a sealed regulator versus an open regulator, a piston versus a diaphragm, the thicknesses of suits, things like that, whether you're a recreational diver or whether you might be interested in teaching, right? Becoming a dive master. Or perhaps an instructor. Maybe you want to go work on a boat in the Caribbean and help people on their dive trips, right? And you're going to need different gear. Okay. The last thing that I want to mention is be very wary and very cautious of buying online. And I don't mean from a reputable dive organization like LeviathanScuba.com. I would love for you to purchase with us. But even we tell you on our site that some of the things that are not best bought online. I also recommend people to keep their dive shop, their local dive shop, in business. If they don't offer the deal that you found online, ask them. Please ask them. Because you know what? I'd rather somebody ask me for a savings than to spend an hour and a half learning from me, having me fitting them, and they go save 10 or 15 bucks online. And next time I see them, they're wearing gear they bought online. You know, it's hard enough to make a living owning a dive shop. There, you don't make a lot of money. So keep them in business. Keep the local guys in business. Now, if they don't have the piece you identified, you want that piece, find another dive shop that carries that brand, or perhaps then buy online, okay? But I say keep the local guy in business first. And I hope people do that with me, and I would hope that for any other dive shop out there, okay? So spend the money, do the research, buy quality, and now we'll get into what's the first piece of equipment. So my order of products is different than some of the other guys I've been watching out there just to kind of see, you know, how they put their things in order and some of the items that they would not include or do include. So I have a few different things on my list and they're a little different order, but I'll explain why. I did consider budget. So sometimes it's easier, I'd rather you have a particular piece of equipment than not have it because it's much more affordable and you have to save longer to buy that other piece. And I'll explain as we go. Okay, so it's easier to buy less expensive gear first. Sometimes that might have moved up on my list just a little bit. If you're not on a tight budget, then a few of these items could have been either at the same time or perhaps in a different order. We'll get into it. I think we all agree the number one item on your list should be your mask. It is the number one item that controls your experience, good or bad. If you have a mask that floods all the time, fogs all the time, leaks, it'll drive you crazy. And a lot of times people don't wear their mask properly. Almost everybody I know out there that I meet wears their mask too tight. They seem to think that pulling the strap tighter makes it seal better, and that is wrong. It is actually backwards on a mask. If you've taken the time to have a proper fitting mask, it'll fit you with no strap. It'll fit you with pure gravity just sitting on your face. So if you over tighten it, you misshape the mask. We do have a video on how to choose the right mask for you and how to get the right fit. You might want to check it out. It'll explain how tightening it makes it leak, okay? But my point is the mask is the number one item. It's going to control your experience, good or bad. I tell people don't scrimp, don't save on the mask. That doesn't mean go just spend a lot of money and buy the most expensive mask, because if the mask that was $240 doesn't fit you, it's not worth anything. If the mask that's $50 fits you, great, it fits you. As long as it's got quality materials, it's going to last, you're good. Do you know a mask, a good quality mask, is going to last 25 years if you take care of it? So it's not really expensive when you think about how much use you're going to get out of it. Okay? We do have the videos on how to choose them, how to fit them. Check them out. Number 2, this is different on my list. Some lists didn't even include it. I believe number 2 item you should choose are fins. The scuba fins that you choose or snorkeling fins are going to make a huge difference. For example, I'm going to tease you a little bit. You shouldn't scuba dive with your snorkel fins, if they are snorkel fins. You can snorkel with scuba fins, but you can't scuba with snorkel fins. What's the difference? We have a video for that. Go check it out. But there's a huge difference. Part of it is efficiency, how much water they grab, how streamlined you are when you're snorkeling versus scuba diving, the amount of thrust that they have, the materials that they're made out of, all kinds of stuff like that. But fins are key because they can make a difference of scuba diving and getting 40 minutes out of your tank versus getting 75 minutes out of the same tank. And it's just the fin for some people, right? Usually 10, 15 minutes difference with a quality fin for scuba versus a terrible fin for snorkel. It makes a huge difference. So I think it's cheap enough to buy that you don't have to be concerned too terribly as to which order. Buy it the same day you get your mask, but buy quality, and fins are number 2. Now, number 3 on my list also is out of order with some of the other reviewers you'll see, but I'm going to explain why. Number 3 is the dive computer. My biggest reason for making this number 3 on my list is purely safety. Because a dive computer is a personal item, it's a safety item, but it comes with a learning curve. If you had to rent, this is one of those pieces of equipment you don't want to rent for long. You want to own. And the reason why is all the dive shops, all the resorts, all the dive destinations in the world, they don't use the same dive computer. So the one you trained on in your open water class isn't the same one you're going to rent when you go to the Bahamas, right? And so every time you rent a dive computer, chances are, unless you go to the same location every time, you're going to have to relearn how to use that dive computer. And figuring it out on the boat when you're on your way to your dive site is not a good idea, okay? It's better for you to own a dive computer, practice with it when you're at home, drinking your coffee, sitting on the couch, playing with it, getting used to it, right? Even if you have the manual, sometimes the different features, gee, this one's a 2-button. My last one was a 4-button. What's the difference? How come I'm missing these buttons? Those kind of things. So the reason why a dive computer is number 3 on my list is the learning curve. You want to know the piece of equipment that you're going to use, right? That's life support. And you want to be used to it. You want to be, I can use mine in the dark if I need to. Things like that. I understand it well enough, okay? Oftentimes, rental agencies don't carry dive computers. That's another reason. They'll rent you the Regulator, the BC, the this, and then when they don't have a dive computer for you to rent, they say, it's okay, just stick with the Dive Master. Okay. You need to understand the computer you use, right? I lead trips. I bring people with me, and it's awkward, but they rent a dive computer, let's say, on a trip, or they rent their dive gear. I would have preferred they rented my gear from my shop before we left because I know it and I can explain it to them. I can give them a tutorial on them. But I can't tell you how many times on a dive trip somebody decided they just didn't want to mess with it. They rented their gear and they're on the trip and they go, this is the dive, how does it work, Freddie? And I look at them and I go, never seen it before in my life. Right? You rented it. You figure it out. I don't say that. If I can help them, I try. However, I feel like that's what I want to say sometimes because 4 different people have 4 different dive computers and they're saying, how do you work it? I don't know all of them. Maybe I can help you. But if I rented them the gear, I would know. I would give them a tutorial before we left. Okay? Next piece of gear. Number 4 is the wetsuit. Okay? This surprises some people because the wetsuit, why does it come before a Regulator or a BCD or something like that? Because of how personal it is. If you've owned multiple wetsuits, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. They don't fit the same. One brand doesn't fit the other. So you took your class, the shop put you in a medium, but it was this brand. Well, the place where you're going to rent that gear. You try their medium on, it's not even close to the same. Wow, this one's so tight I can't even breathe. Right? They're all different. Every manufacturer, their medium is different than each other. So if you're going to buy a wetsuit, if you try it online, make sure they have sizing charts because that's the closest you're going to get. Or you're going to be sending it back, getting another one, sending it back, getting another one, sending it back, and it's going to drive everybody nuts. But it's not an easy thing to do unless you fit in it. I've had people return a wetsuit that fits them perfect. Perfect. Why would they return a wetsuit that fits them perfect? I have to call them. I have to explain. And they say, well, it just felt tight. I go, have you ever wore a wetsuit before? No. Or just the one in the pool. Well, guess what? The joke with a wetsuit is if you can still breathe, it's not tight enough. So if you buy that comfortable one, you're going to freeze. The one that's easy to get into, that's super comfy to wear, it should be snug. It should be tight. It should eliminate all the bags. We have a video for that. Go check it out. Okay, so I was explaining the wetsuit's number 4 on my list because of how personal it is. A lot of rental suits, it might creep you out that people pee in them. There's only 2 kinds of divers, those that pee in their suit and those that lie about it. But you know what? With all the enzymes and the cleaners available today that we dive shops use, it's almost like a brand new wetsuit every single time you use it. But if that still creeps you out, that's another reason why to buy your wetsuit before you'll get another piece of gear. There's no learning curve with a wetsuit other than it needs to fit you properly. It's a very personalized item. You want it to be comfy. You don't know what you're going to get when you go on a trip and you rent there. You don't know which kind of a suit you're going to get. And size varies dramatically throughout the different brands and throughout the world, okay? So let me give you a little confidence in ordering a wetsuit or buying a wetsuit first. You're less likely to make a mistake when you buy a wetsuit because number one, they're more affordable than some of the other pieces of gear, but they also wear out much faster than the other 2 pieces of gear that follow this this order. So that means you get to change your mind at some point. You buy a wetsuit, a cheap wetsuit, $100. Right? It's built to last 100 dives. It may look brand new after 100 dives, but it won't keep you warm anymore. You're going to have to go check out our other video for the explanation of why, but it's true. It's done. 100 dives, it's done. You pay a little bit more, you get a nicer wetsuit, same neoprene, same thickness, right? Feel to it and all that, but guess what? This one will last you 500 dives, keep you warm, fine. And trying to buy one online, guess what? It can be worn out and look brand new. I did a wetsuit buying guide. We have one of our videos on how to choose a wetsuit. I showed my wetsuit with 400 dives on it next to a brand new one. It was in great shape. It looked almost brand spanking new. I could be unscrupulous and sell that online somewhere to somebody used, and it would protect them against jellyfish stings and abrasions, but it wouldn't keep them warm anymore, okay? So wetsuits aren't built the same, but they don't last very long either. So if you're going to dive a lot and you want to buy the $100 wetsuit that will only last 100 dives, it may take you 10 years to get 100 dives. That's fine. Do it. That's smart. But if you dive a lot and you want to dive a lot, then spending a little bit more, you might get that suit that'll last you 200, 250 dives or as many as 500 dives. Okay? So the next piece of gear on our list is number 5. It is the Regulator. Now, you could probably swap number 4 or number 5 wetsuit Regulator, but I have the Regulator at number 5 because it's not as personal an item as a wetsuit. It doesn't really have to be fitted. You already know how to use it, so it doesn't have a big learning curve, perhaps like a dive computer. So if you had to rent something and show up and they had a regulator that wasn't so precise or anything, you already know how to use it and we pretty much know it's going to fit, okay? So that's why it's number 5 on my list. That being said, I don't want to say that it's not a personal choice. I took a guy on a dive trip. He was brand new diver. He bought one of our rental packages because we sell our rental packages. It's super quality equipment, but it's tough. It doesn't have finesse. So a rental reg is going to breathe very different than a high-end reg you're going to buy for yourself later. The rental reg is meant to fall on the concrete, keep working forever. Students abuse them and things. Well, that's what he bought. He bought a full rental package. Great, we sell them. We tell them up front, guess what? This is basic equipment. It's going to last you a long time, super tough, but doesn't have a lot of finesse. That's okay. He was on a budget. That's what he wanted to do. Well, he ran out of air. I gave him my primary because I keep my secondary on my BC. I breathe out of my secondary. We surfaced. I had to tow him back because we were against the current. It was a night dive. He was exhausted. I towed him back. We got to the beach. He was tired. We both went and had a beer and laughed about it. We got back to the dive shop after the trip was over, and he goes, "What was that regulator you had me breathing out of?" And I told him, and he says, "Give me one of those. I want one of those." I go, "You already have a regulator. You just bought one, a couple months ago." And he says, "Nope, I want that reg because it breathes so nice." So sometimes, the personalized regulator and the higher end gear can make a huge difference, right? But I'm going to recommend that you buy a nicer regulator than you would normally rent for that reason I just mentioned, right? There's lots of features you can check out with the regulator that are different from one another. They don't all have the same features. Example would be breathability. How about a swivel on the end of the head, so it doesn't tug on your cheek, or a flex hose, or adjustability. You want to adjust the breathing rate or the stiffness of the breathing, right? Or the comfort by bite mouthpiece, etc. Now, another thing to consider when you're buying your regulator, number 5 on the list, is you also need to consider the octopus and the gauges as well. So the SS1 here by Atomic, secondary, or an octopus, the Oceanic Slimline, right? And then gauges by Cressy. You want to consider these when you purchase your regulator. You don't have to buy them all at the same time, but you should because you do need an octo, and you're not going to rent just an octo when you go on a trip. So when you buy your regulator, you're going to buy the octo, you're also going to buy the gauges, okay? Or maybe a dive computer, something like that. If you already have that, if you've already bought them in order on the list. But part of your research should include warm water, cold water, recreational diving, sealed or open, adjustable, those kind of things, and some of the other features that I mentioned. What's the next item on the list? Number 6, the BCD. Okay? Some people are surprised this is kind of far down on the list, but the reason why is if I had to travel and show up somewhere with a piece of gear that would fit anybody or usability, I already know how to work, again, kind of like a regulator, the BCD is there. You know how to work it. You were trained with it. You may have been trained with a different kind, so when you go to buy your own, what will you buy? Will you use a jacket style just like you trained in? Or will you use a back inflate, Travel BC? Will it have integrated weight pockets? Will it not? Will you use a weight belt? No, don't use a weight belt. I'm anti-weight belt. Sorry if you're a dive shop in the, third world countries and that's all you offer. But that's another reason why buying your own gear is great. You want integrated weights. Okay? There's not a huge learning curve with the BC. You know how to work it. There might be some features that you need to learn, but that's why it's easy for you to pick up a BC. Fit on a BC usually fits a wider range. It's not so precise like a wetsuit, okay? Or a mask. If you're a large, small, you can get away with a medium. If you're a small, large, you can get away with a medium, okay? Or you could wear a large, or vice versa. See how it goes? And so a BC is not quite, as personalized as far as the fit goes. Now, they are all meant to do basically the same thing, so you know how to do it. You learned in your training. The features can differ between each other. I mentioned a full jacket, weight integrated versus maybe a back inflate Travel BC, okay? Now, this is something easy to buy online because the fit is not so crucial and all that once you research features, but I'm sure there's a dive shop near you that would appreciate your business. I like people to support their dive shop with the gear that they buy. We are happy to help as an online source for you. If you don't have a dive shop near you, or your guys are jerks and they only care about money and not helping you. I say that because some are. You can also find another dive shop if they don't carry the brand or they're not willing to give you the same deal as you found online. Buy from the shop first, then ask them for the deal if you need to. Okay, or if they don't have the brand, find a different shop near you that does. Okay, so on to number 7 on the list. Hey, how come number 7 didn't even make it to some of the other lists online? Well, dive bag. The reason why I added a dive bag to my list is I consider a dive bag essential equipment, really simply because of the convenience that it brings to the dive life. So if you haven't thought about a dive bag as crucial gear, essential gear to buy it, let me share with you what it can do for you. So try this. Take all your dive gear you've bought, 50 pounds, 60 pounds maybe even 70 with some camera gear and things like that. Go down to your laundry room, grab that laundry bag, bring it out and shove it all in there. Might fit. Might even be tough enough for now. Soak it in salt water 57 times and clean it and see if it still is tough. And there's features with a dive bag that are just so convenient. It just brings, for the money you have to spend on one, they're not expensive. A cheap one, $40 for a cheap, decent one with some of the features you want. At this video time, the inexpensive one is $100. But what they come with to help you, your convenient factor is great. So the laundry bag might work. Cheap, right? Why buy the dive bag? First of all, the dive bag is designed for scuba diving. It's designed to resist salt water and chlorine, anything caustic, things like that. You still need to rinse it and you still need to take care of it. But they've also thought about some things like drains in the bottom, the super heavy-duty nylon or material, denier nylon on the bottom of it that's meant to be on boat decks and on the beach in the sand and things like that. I personally don't like the duffel bags anymore because I'm older, 50, 60 pounds of gear in there with everything camera gear and stuff. Carrying it like a duffel bag is kind of heavy when you have to go a long ways. I like the backpack straps. Throw it on my back, carry it like a backpack. My hands are free to do other things or carry other things. That's great. They're meant to hold a lot of gear. Most of the dive bags on the market you can hold almost 2 people's gear, or at least your gear plus a bunch of extra things. If you have an extra mask or you have a first aid kit, save a dive kit, your camera gear, extra set of clothing, big towel, those kind of things. They're made for it, right? So it's very convenient being able to haul it around. The better ones have a true dry bag on the inside of the dive bag. So think about this for a second. You got your t-shirt, you got your after dive jacket, your towel, your hat, maybe some paperwork, something like that, things you want to keep dry, your wallet, and you need a dry bag. And it's very convenient if your dive bag has one built into it. So you open it up, throw all that in there, curl it down, crease it. You get done with your day of scuba diving. What do you take off? Your wetsuit? It's soaking wet with salt water. Your BC, your regulator's still draining water out of the mouthpiece, right? Everything's wet. You shove it down into your dive bag. If your other stuff was in there, it would get soaked unless it had a dry bag. So you get the idea. Beautiful dry bag. A side zipper. Look for a side zipper in your dive bag. I love it. It's convenient. That's why one of the reasons why I say a dive bag is simply because of these conveniences. A side zipper, what does it do? So your bag is full, 60 pounds of gear. A whale comes right up to the side of the boat, or for whatever reason you want to get your camera, or you forgot your sunglasses, or something is at the bottom. The dive master says, oh, how deep did you go and how long did you stay? We're recording all. Oh crap, my computer's at the bottom of my... You unzip the side zipper, reach down in the bottom, fiddle around, grab it, zip it back up. You didn't have to dump your dye bag out and pull everything out. Just very, very convenient. An accessory pouch on the front. For all that stuff you need to get to quick. Maybe your dive tool. Maybe your defog, your mask scrub. Maybe that's where you're keeping your pouch with your sunglasses, your Save a Dive kit, mini first aid kit, whatever. It's accessible on the front in its own little accessory pouch. You don't have to shove it all on the inside with everything else, and that's very, very convenient as well. And again, I'm going to say, when they make these dive bags, they make them out of super tough material. My dive bag, I have an Armor dive bag that I've had for 16 years now, maybe 17 years now. I'd really like to get a new one, but it still works, and I can probably get another couple of years out of it, no problem. It's super, super tough. Stallsack makes one of the best ones I've ever rated, and they have a lot of very nice features, so you can check those out too. And we have a video that says, it reviews the Stallsack, it reviews the Armor, or how to buy a dive bag. So check it out. We're also doing something, we came up with the idea that I just didn't find out there, and that is we're filming a series right now, and it's going to take us a while, but we'll release them in order of the gear that we include in this series. And the name of the series is Dive Gear Buying Guide. It's not which gear to buy. It's not the brand names, the manufacturers, and it's not even a review. We do that with individual products. What this is if you are in the market now to buy a regulator, I want to talk about regulators, all the different kinds that are out there, all the different features that are out there, and I'm just going to help educate you on the features and the benefits of different kinds of regulators and those things within the regulator world. So you can watch the regulator buying guide, and you should be armed to go out and get a little more information and pick the regulator you want. You'll be able to apply this type to your kind of diving, avoid that type because you don't do that kind of diving, things like that. Okay, I have people all the time that go out and buy gear, they buy the wrong stuff, they come back, they spent a lot of money on it, and it wasn't right for them. So we're going to try to show you everything about masks, all your different options that you have out there. Materials, lenses, lens designs, all those kind of things, right? Purge, no purge, full face, all that kind of stuff on masks. And then we'll go to snorkels, then we'll go to booties, then we'll go to, wetsuits and regulators and BCDs and dive bags and flashlights and all the kind of different gear that's out there, and we'll just start creating a series that has them all. We'll try to put it in a playlist, so if you wanted to watch them all, you could. If you want to pick out the item that you're most interested in checking out, or come back and in the future and check out another piece of gear because now you're in the market for that, good to go. I do appreciate you watching these videos. I know I talk too much. Sometimes they go long, but I hope that it's interesting and it's relevant and it helps you. That's why we do it. We're trying to keep you from buying things twice, making mistakes and buying the wrong things, and then having to fix the mistake. And you know what? We love doing it. We love diving. We're passionate about it. And if you have any questions about some of the order of things that we did, just put them in the comments below. Make it a great day. The difference between a new diver and an experienced diver is quite often the tips and the tricks they learn along the way. That's why we share these things with you. We hope that it helped you in some way. And you can help us if you'll just hit that like button down below. And if you can think of anybody else that might benefit from these, why don't you try sharing it? That'll help get the word out. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll let you know when the next one comes out. Have an awesome day.